And we are live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, Vibhor. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It is even more evening on your side, if that makes sense to say.
Yeah, it's almost night for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed how days are becoming shorter because now it's already getting a little bit more darker in Europe at these times. It's still daytime
hmm
mostly, but at this time slot, we found it as a good spot because it covers the most of our
Yeah,
attendees, so that is okay. And also people can rewatch this, which is pretty cool. So
100%.
I love it, by the way, every time when we are doing this application that we are streaming from, it says it's showtime. It pumps you up just before we start streaming, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, on the other note, I think today's topic is pretty good. UI specifically for enterprises. I work
Hmm.
with one of the enterprises when I just started my career, and I know how painful that was to generate a UI because back then it was, Figma was popular, but again, we were not using it. So it was more of a
Hmm.
wireframe that discussing how do you want it to look like, then generating that PRD into a UI. Oh God, that was a pain. And even when I was working with another company, same Figma to generating the whole UI was taking like
Hmm.
months. So I think this is something beautiful and amazing that we are bringing up today, wherein you can build out UI direct pulling components directly from Figma, and
Hmm.
Zencoder can do the rest of the magic for you.
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm happy to see that Glenn Little says that this time it works for him. So Glenn, that's great to hear. It works for us as well. So nice to have you with us. All right. I think we could start slowly because we're getting more and more people now here. So I'll do a little intro of what I'm going to show to you today, and then I'll jump in and share my screen, and we can take it from there. Hopefully, it's going to be interesting for everyone, or at least for a majority of you guys. So one of the things that Zencoder has launched relatively recently is our specialized web dev agent, and what sets it apart, maybe from our typical coding agent or a bunch of other agents that we have, is that we envisioned it as something that can really help you build modern web-based solutions. So whether if you're building, let's say, a SaaS software or something based on React, or maybe something based on Vue, Angular, or if you just want to use JavaScript, TypeScript, like a regular web whatever product, with Web Dev Agent, that's even simpler. Two main, or maybe I would even say three main components that are playing into this. The first one is the Web Dev Agent connects through Figma MCP, and I will show you how do we set up the Figma MCP as one of the ways how to pull the imagery in, and can help you bring and build those components from your Figma files. The other one is that it also has the ability to read logs, right? So you can imagine it almost, it runs the browser in the background. If there are some errors, if there are some issues, it will try and keep that working in that agentic loop and fix those for you. I'm almost kind of hoping that we will encounter some error while building this so that you will be able to see how it looks. I have to be careful for what I wish for because sometimes things can happen. So I'll have to balance my expectations here. And the last part, which is really a game changer, I would say here, and I'm not using that word, that phrase very easily, is the fact that now when Web Dev Agent builds a solution for you, being it a single component or being it a more robust solution, it will also generate a suite of end-to-end tests for you. So we integrate with Playwright, right? So in general, you will end up with, web-based solution that also comes with a testing suite. So it's not just you shipping vibes or nicely looking UIs. It is also something that helps you um, build something that has a production ready value. So we will be showcasing all of those things today. Right. So with that out of my line, I'm going to share my screen and tell you exactly what I'm planning to do and do a couple of demos with you guys. So give me 1 second. Share screen. As always, Shantanu, I'll be relying on you being my eyes
Yep.
while I'm in the full
Yes, sir.
screen. So feel free to interrupt me at any point if people are asking questions if I'm not seeing it. So I will trust you blindly, more or less, in this one. Okay. So
Yes, there you go.
can you
Yes, we
see
can.
my you can see it. All right. Right. I just updated Zencoder to the latest version. Literally happened just before I started this. I wanted to start this webinar. So I'm starting from the blank slate here. So I have this web dev Figma select project that I've just opened. So as you can see, no files, no folders, nothing here. And I will start from scratch. So it suggests to run repo info agent, but I will skip that for now because I don't have any code base here. We need to do a couple of things. So the first thing I want to explain, how do you reach the web dev agent? So the web dev agent is accessible through our agent selector, and you can see it here. It's called the web dev. That's pretty much it. Nothing too much for you to adjust. All the magic and everything is happening in the background. You still do have a couple of options here. If you want to auto apply changes or include the current file that I might have opened here. But for demos, I usually just keep these settings by default. So that's the web dev agent. However, I said that even if I were to go now and tell it, hey, I want you to build me like a simple landing page using just HTML and CSS, it would do this for me. But you said it, Shantan, when we were just starting. It is really nice that we now can have this from design to code workflow enabled through Figma, but also enabled through just pasting in screenshots. So I will start with the Figma one. There are two ways how we can actually do that. So the first one, there is an official dev mode MCP that comes from Figma. So Shantanu, if you want, you can paste the link to this one in the chat.
Yep.
So anyone who wants to follow along can do it as well. So if you're a user of Figma, if you have a dev or full seat on any of their professional, org, or enterprise plans, you have the ability to use the dev mode MCP server, right? And they have a pretty decent documentation here. So I'm not going to reread all of these things for you, but I highly recommend that you take a look at it and figure out what are the potential limitations, but which of these things are working great. The most important part for us here is using the Figma desktop app, and their server runs locally at this URL, and the configuration for it looks similar to this. Shantan, you can also drop the part that I shared about the configuration of the Figma MCP itself in chat,
Yep.
because that's what I'm going to do in
Sure.
Zencoder. Yeah. So basically, it's this one here. What I will do, I will just grab it from here. I'll go back to Zencoder. We have our tools here. So this is a custom MCP that I'll be adding. I'll just go ahead and call it Figma and pretty much paste this thing here. Hit install. I think that should be pretty much it. The other option that I also want to show you, so you can take this as an official Figma MCP. That's something that has been released by them. But there is an additional option that we found, and I want to share it with you. The general idea is, I'll give you a couple of options, and you can experiment and figure out and see which ones works the best for you. The other option is this. It is called Figma Context MCP. So this one, to my knowledge, is not coming officially from Figma. It's from FrameLink AI. So again, Shantanu, you can just paste the link to this GitHub, and similarly, there are quick start instructions. If you go here, you will see the command is npx, and you paste these arguments. What is different, however, is that this one will require your Figma API key, right? So if you're a Figma user, you will need to generate your Figma API key, paste it in your configuration, and use it that way. I can't say that I've noticed some dramatic changes in terms of quality, but your mileage might vary. So I definitely encourage you to figure out and see which of these would work best for you. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to stick with the official Figma MCP with this configuration that I have over here. So this was like the groundwork, the first steps and the first things that we want to do. Paste this MCP config, call it Figma, make sure that it's installed, saved, and that's it, pretty much it. So what's the next step? The next step and how this entire Figma MCP thing works, you have two options, right? I will open a Figma application locally here. And the way how this Figma MCP works, so well, first steps first. Go to Figma menu here, and then under preferences, make sure that you enable a local MCP server. That will actually make sure that it runs on that local host with the appropriate port. And another tip that I would suggest, make sure that when you go to local MCP server settings and image settings, select this download. That means that, for example, icons and images will not be just used as placeholder, but it will actually download them. So for example, you can see these icons here in our sidebar. I'll try to maybe rebuild this or something similar to this so that they will be downloaded and that they will be used in your actual project. Now, two options how I can tell Figma to build, let's say, this component for me as a React component. One of them, I can just select this frame, right click on it, and go and say copy paste and say copy link to selection. Or other one is, it is just enough because this is running locally. It is perfectly fine and completely enough just for me to have this selected. So just based on the fact that this has been selected, the local MCP will know that this is something that I wanted to build. But I kind of prefer just going and copy paste and copying link to this selection. So now this link has been copied to my clipboard. I'll go back. I'll just make sure that I'm on web dev. I will paste it here. And now I'm going to give it a prompt. So I will dictate this one. Hey buddy, I would like you to connect to this Figma frame and implement it. I suggest using React with Vite. If you want to use Tailwind, for the sake of simplicity, just use the CDN. You don't have to use the NPM for Tailwind, but for everything else, follow the best practices. So here's what's happening, right? So now I'm just going to tell it to literally build this for me. If I didn't tell it to to use the CDN, it would probably try to get the Tailwind from the npm repo for me. I'm doing this on purpose so I can show you this flexibility. So you definitely have always have the chance or the opportunity to nudge it a little bit more. So what's going to happen now? You will see that under the thinking here. Let me actually expand this just so you can see what it was working. It figured out what's the node parameter, it converted it to the right one, and it will try to get the image from Figma. Here you can see the tools that are basically tool calls from the Figma MCP. So it was the get image, and now it says, now let me get the code from Figma to understand the structure better. And you can see here, okay, the design shows the clean admin interface header. It figured out the light stone gray color. Main sections, it says Jira bugs agent. And if I were to compare that to here, yeah, that actually is exactly what I'm having here. So it reached out to this selection. It understands that this is a tab navigation. So yeah, this is actually pretty cool. While this is an image, it understands that these are not just the labels; those are the tabs. So hopefully, it will actually build them as tabs. So if I will be clicking on them, I'll have the ability to change between those different tabs. So let me go back. It did this entire overview for me, and it is now asking me what should I do. I'm going to say ignore files and continue because it already had some files that it just created for me. And now my agent is getting on to work. Now this might take a second or two. Yeah, it will install some dependencies for me. I'll keep the terminal open here so I can track in real time what's happening. Hopefully nothing too dramatic. It will set up the project structure now. Okay, check the current HTML. Did I tell it to use React? I think I did. Yeah, it's using template React and Vite, so that should be fine. It will use Google fonts. Yeah, as you can see here, now it's working on it. So the general idea is that we try to get as close as possible to that thing that we were building. Let me run this. Figured out the correct font family. It's nice because it can easily pick up all these correct values from Figma itself. It doesn't have to infer them just from the screenshot. Although, and I'll show you that example as well, it will work pretty well even with the screenshot. So generally, my suggestion would be to try, both ways. You might want to just drop it a screenshot, or you might, actually give it a link to a Figma itself and figure out what would give you a better result. So yeah, it is now working on a couple of components. Let me see how it looks here. Yeah, now it has actually started generating them. I have a bunch of node modules as expected. Some components that it will be building and adding here. My dependencies here. So yeah, let's give it a moment while it is working on this one. It's cleaning up the default CSS because I told it to use Tailwind. So I did make a, how would I say it? I did make a deliberate choice here to use React and Vite, but of course you can, as I said, you could use any other modern web technology. So you could tell it to use, I don't know, Angular or Vue or whatever it is that you're preferring, and then you can also point it in the direction of using some specific CSS framework. So completely up to you guys, whatever works best for you. And you can see here now, okay, it created a bunch of these components for me. I will click apply all, and I will now run my server. So now this might be conflicting. Oh, okay, because I already started one before. Let me now see what it created. This is always surprising. You never know what you're gonna get. All right, so it actually created this thing for me. And as you can see, the tabs are actually working fine. It has all of them. I'll just bring for the reference the actual Figma component here. So you can see that it really picked up the correct font. You can see this really specific R, so that you can see that it picked up the correct font. There are some differences, but in general, it did actually a really, really good job by keeping the by keeping this fidelity between the Figma itself and the component that it has built. So this is really nice. Pretty much one shot at this thing. But what is happening now? Now it's going to ask me and create end-to-end tests for me. So if I go back to my VS Code, you will see here, while I was talking to you, it already says, okay, the server is running. It used Playwright tools in the background, grabbed screenshots, and says that, okay, the implementation matches Figma design very well. Let me test the interactivity by clicking on some elements. So it already started this path and this work for me without me even telling it to do so. Now it will create a couple of rules for me, just for the Figma and for the Playwright. And now this is what it's suggesting. So it says, I need your approval for writing end-to-end tests. This is what it wants to do, like Playwright with JavaScript, complete admin header interface functionality, couple of flows, primary user flow, couple of key assertions, and ask me, would I like to proceed with this? You know what? Yeah, let's do that. I'm not going to ask it to modify the plan first. This looks perfectly fine for me. You might have seen this thing before. So we have a tool for requirements gathering. So sometimes agent might ask you to provide it with an input in a little bit more of a structured approach. You could always enter your own answer or select some of the existing ones. But here, I'm happy with these existing tests that it proposed, and I'll just go and hit submit. So instead of me writing assertions and creating all the end-to-end tests for this component that it built, I will rely on Zencoder to do this for me. So this might take a moment. In the meantime, I'm just going to ask you, Shantanu, do we have any questions or any comments while Zencoder is helping me and writing these tests for me?
Yes. There's one quick question from Glenn. So Glenn is asking, when the default LLM agent is thinking, can you annotate it with the name of the LLM that is being used?
Okay. Okay, so we will be making changes to this and giving more flexibility to, giving more flexibility in the selection of different models or different LLMs that are being used for different agents. Right now, for the web dev agents, that is not possible. But for example, you can already see that if I were to select some of our custom agents, I would have the ability to select and tell it, I want you to run this custom agent using, I don't know, Sonnet or Gemini or GPT-5, right? So that will be coming in one way or another in the future. I don't have an exact timeline for that, but we would have this ability for you to have more control over the LLM that's being used for running even our built-in agents. We have it for the code agent, but we also are looking to build it for others. So yeah, it created a config for my playwright, and now I'll ask it to make this directory for these tests and then create them. Glenn, I hope that answers your question. If you have any follow-up ones, feel free to ask. Happy to
Yeah,
answer
I
them for
mean,
you.
yeah. So Glenn has a follow up, just a follow up comment on top of it. So
Mhm.
Glenn asks, I have noticed that the response style changes sometimes, but I don't know which LLM is being used.
Mhm. For web dev agent, or generally speaking, it's not sure, because for the web dev agent we don't have it visible. That's true, but for other agents, I will show that in a second, right? I will show you for the coding agents and so on. That can affect the response time. So if you give me like 2 minutes just to go through these tests, I'll get back to that one. I will not forget about it. Right. So now I actually created my tests and I will run them. Now observe what will be happening here in this part of my terminal. So it will try, it created like 10 tests. Okay, this was fast. It actually just created 10 tests and most of them ran successfully. There is a one that failed. Admin header interface should verify all interactivity. If I click on it, I can always see, what has been happening here. It says that it expects to contain, but that actually failed for some reason. Let me go back. Now, when I kill this one, it will automatically take the input of this output. You can see here that it's preparing the agent response, and it will now try to fix this one. Yeah, it says there's one failing test, the cursor pointer check. Let me fix that test by updating the approach. So I really like this a lot, right? You can of course expand the test. You can tell it, you want to build, you wanted to do more tests, or you wanted to get rid of some of them. It will generally try to figure out, what's the best approach that it has for you, and it will build tests accordingly. But in any case, it beats me in writing those tests. It beats pretty much any engineer that I know in terms of speed, but also in terms of comprehensiveness of it. So you can see here, yeah, what it did. Set up the test, implementation. Yeah, it says now all the tests are passing. Implementation is now complete. The components are here. Configurable, status badge, end-to-end testing suite. So if I were to go now to my file explorer here, and if I were to see test, I can see the test file here, but I can also see the test results with the last run in this JSON status of what has happened. Now, to address Glenn's question about different speed of how we are, executing code and so on, I'll start a new chat here, and you will see, for example, if I were to select code, that's our default agent that basically I often call it like a power horse or workhorse of Zencoder. With this one, you have the ability to change among different agents. Among different models based on your subscription plan. So not all these models are available on every subscription plan. So some of those models are actually super powerful, but could be somewhat slow. So for example, if I were to use Opus 4.1 with parallel thinking, which is the top of the line offering that we have within Zencoder, this model, while being extremely powerful, it can take time to deliver solutions because it thinks a lot. It also does some thinking in parallel. It's a really state-of-the-art huge model that we use for solving the most complex problems, or something that maybe some other models haven't solved. But if I want to do something fairly quick, I might go with Gemini 2.5, or I will just go with Sonnet. You can always go with the default model. That's our model in the background. But for more predictability, or if you want to stick with some of the models that you know of, then you can always override this and select it. And This is the case also for custom agents. So for example, we have one which serves pretty much like a code reviewer similar to Sonar. With this one, I can also give it a different model. So if I were to go and give it Opus 4.1, it will maybe do, it will certainly do a more in-depth research and code evaluation for me, but it will also take longer time than it would do if I were just to select Sonnet 4 or maybe some of the smaller or faster models. So it is always finding, I would say, it is always about finding a balance between the speed and the quality of the model. Stay tuned, because in the near future, we will be expanding this offering. I can't say much about this, but we will be expanding this, and I think that you will find it very interesting, especially in the terms of the ratio between the speed and the quality of the things that we'll be creating and delivering for you guys very soon. One additional thing that I also want to show you, and I will actually, because we're running out of time, I will actually try and show you an example that I built before. So here, in this example, I actually showed you a direct connection with Figma. But I could also just grab this as a screenshot and tell, our web dev agent to build this for me. And I think I actually have an example of that. It is Figma from screenshot test. So this is the another project. Let me zoom in a little bit. So here you will see that under the screens, I actually created the screenshot. So pretty much the same stuff that we have in Jira, right? So, but just, oh, sorry, not in Jira. My God, talking about Jira. In Figma, what I did literally, and I can tell you, I went to copy paste as PNG, but I could also have just exported it. And then on Zencoder, I asked it, my first prompt here was, I'll go a little bit up. I told it, hey, use this screenshot file for me, and I would like your help to implement this, use the React components, pretty much very similar to what we've just seen before. And it did similar stuff. It now, instead of connecting to Figma, it tried to understand this image. You will notice that, for example, in case of Figma, it was able to grab exact values of hex colors, fonts names, and so on. But here it uses this like approximate, right? It tries to guess and gets fairly close to understanding which hex color might be here, which fonts might be here, also the sizes and so on. But it actually did a really, really good job. It still created pretty much all of these things. It created all the tests for me. So if I were to run this, npm run dev, hopefully not conflicting with some. Okay, it actually tries another one. Now let me see how this looks like. So you can see it is still fairly close, but it is not exactly the same. I'll zoom in a little bit. It is not exactly the same font, for example, as it was here. Still pretty close, but not exactly the same stuff. But the functionality itself, and you can see here that it understands the current tabs, it understands all of these things, buttons, all these elements, those are perfectly fine. So in practice, what I would suggest for most of your use cases is, try with Figma, because there is this official MCP that could help you get the most value out of it and most precise use cases. But sometimes Figma files might be corrupt or they might not be properly set up. So you always have the ability to just easily grab a screenshot and go and tell it, hey, build this thing for me. I think I also have another example that I would like to show you. Web Dev Figma. Was it this one? I think this one. Yeah, let me show you this example as well. So what I did here, this one was connecting, as you will be able to see in my prompt, this was connecting to an actual Figma component. I told it I have selected a frame. So remember, you can paste a link to it, or you can just select a frame. So what I did, I selected, let me zoom out a little bit here. I selected this frame for that purpose. It is basically sidebar. So this is the actual thing that you will see if you go to auth.zencoder.ai. Depending on your plan, you might have more or less of these options. And I wanted it to rebuild this entire thing for me, together with the icons, with proper imagery, and so on. So I told it, hey, go there, fix it for me. It worked, basically implemented a bunch of these things. It pulled down and created those SVGs for me. Now, if I go and run this one, npm run dev, I'll spin this on another port probably, 5175. I combined it. I combined it here with this component, but look at this. And I will put it side by side just for you so you can see how it looks like. So literally the same agent tools, imagery, everything. It even took, this picture, put it here with the drop down. So pretty awesome. But to be sure that it will grab these images, as I said, my suggestion always is when you go to these preferences, local MCP server settings, image settings, go to download, so that you kind of nudge it to make sure that it is actually using proper SVG files. So yeah, even if I'm clicking here, you can see that it understands where I'm currently. So it's not just nice UI that's clickable, but also something that really reacts to the changes. Same here if I change tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. So yeah, this is pretty much how you go from Figma and from code to components to something that you can build. But as I said, it is really nice that it's very testable. It created a bunch of these end-to-end tests for me, which saves a lot of time. Even if you now continue, for example, adding more functionalities on top of this, you will be able to run those end-to-end tests, see the current in real time what works, what doesn't, and make sure that you're not breaking the things while you're shipping your code and solutions. So this is pretty much what I wanted to share with you. Shantanu, do we have any other questions about the things that I just showed, or this was pretty much it?
Yes, we have a bunch of questions. I can just pull up on the screen. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's one question from Subrat. So he's asking, what is the basic difference between web dev agent and the coding agent?
Okay, awesome question. I was expecting that someone will ask that. So the web dev agent by default, as I said, will work with Playwright, and it will also generate these end-to-end tests for you. Coding agent will not do that unless you tell it to do so. And web dev agent also reads the logs, right? So using the Playwright, it will launch the headless browser in the background, take screenshots, and build this entire feedback loop for you. We discussed and we shared. I can actually open it here. Give me 1 second. If I go to our docs, and if I go to web dev agent, you can see a bit more details about it. Shantanu, if you want, you can actually just find the same link and share it with the guys. Yeah, so this is basically how it works, and these are the technical capabilities. It has this browser automation, so it will click around. It will also read console logs. It is not framework agnostic. It will create responsive designs, and as I said, it uses Playwright to build these end-to-end tests. So the core workflow, as I showed it, it's design input. Could be like either a Figma MCP, image files like screenshots, or you can just describe it, right? I showed how you use Figma, or I also showed you how you can use screenshots. But you can just also tell it, hey, I want you to help me build a landing page for my business and I'm dealing with this or that. It will still do the same stuff. Then it will generate the code for you. It will create end-to-end tests using Playwright. It integrates the feedback, so it will read console logs, errors, save them to dedicated files, and then rereads them if needed. And you get this iterative improvement. We listed and documented here practical use cases, so converting Figma. So convert this Figma design file with a link, or just building from specification, hey, create a pricing page with 3 tiers. You can always copy paste a couple of these prompts here. And that would be the main change, right? So it is specially tailored for modern web development workflows. It understands, as you said, if you told it to build stuff with React, or if you tell it to build stuff with Vue.js and so on, all the proper tooling. And on top of that, as I said, reading console logs, having this iterative feedback, and also building those end-to-end tests for you. So I would suggest, take a look at the docs. We will be creating more tutorials, basically base them off of this webinar that you guys just attended with us. And yeah, I hope this gives you a clear understanding of the main differences.
Perfect. Last bunch of questions, Vivora. We have like 4 or 5 more questions and a few
No
feedback.
problem. Happy to
So,
answer them.
yeah, so there's a question from Glenn. Do we have any plans to include grok code?
Glenn. Ask me this, let's say, in about a week's time. That's all I can say right now. I cannot say more than that.
True. I agree with Vivora on this.
Yeah, that's all I'll say right now.
Awesome. So, yeah, I have a quick feedback from Derek. So, would be great if Vivor could address why bash commands continue to fail, such as find, grep, etc. They used to work in much older builds.
Can you tell exactly? Can you read it again? Sorry. Bash
No
commands
problem.
kept failing in what cases? Sorry.
Bash commands such as find, grep, etc. Used to fail, are currently failing in the newer builds, but they used to work in the older builds. So that's what Derek meant.
Okay. Let me see if that happened in maybe some of these things here. Here I can see them executed all of them. No error
yes,
codes, or this was. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So Derek had a ticket open in Discord, so maybe we can take it offline with him then.
Okay. So generally the comments should work, but if something has, okay, maybe I'll use this opportunity to address something. So things can go wrong, right? So sometimes some of these commands might fail. I would always suggest that you ensure 2 things. One of them is make sure that you're running the latest version of Zencoder and the latest version of your IDE. You might be already doing that. So if I'm, telling you something that you already know, I'm sorry about that. But generally, a bunch of these issues are getting, resolved all the time, and sometimes just a simple, upgrade to the latest version will address them. The other thing is you will also notice, and I have this turned on, and this is the same stuff. This works in JetBrains and VS Code. When an error happens, for example, if this were, for example, is to fail, you would say like, I don't know, code 127 or code 2, but you will also see this operation ID. Make sure that when you're reporting errors to us, share these ops ID with us. If you are not seeing them, there is a simple way how you can enable them. So you just go to settings, and then there should be an option, and it's similar, and it's very similar for JetBrains. So it says display debug info, right? So just make sure that in case of VS Code, this is turned on here. And in case of JetBrains, again, if you go to settings of the Zencoder, you will have this ability. And whenever you're reporting an error, either through support or through Discord, just make sure that to share this operation ID with us. It helps us a lot. And that way that we can actually understand why it failed. Was there some misunderstanding between our infrastructure and an LLM? It is way more helpful than just saying, hey, this failed for, I don't know, when I was executing this. So if you can do that, that would help Shantanu and Leon and Alex and all of us working on this team tremendously. So that's like a little ask from our side.
Yeah, so I think Derek just mentioned that he's fully updated with all the versions, and he believes that it's mostly to do with WSN. So I think it's currently running on WSL.
Oh, WSL. Okay, we did have a couple of asks about that. So Windows Subsystem for Linux, right? So there were a couple of asks about that. That is something that we are actively researching. So if you have that on Discord, Shantanu and I will definitely bring that to the product team. We want to fix that. We had a couple of people with that specific setup, and they were having some issues around it. So good feedback. We'll definitely bring it up with the product team.
Yep.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
sharing.
much.
Honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Yep.
Derek. I think he already shared his operation ID in the chat. I'll just, but yeah. I'll
Okay,
just paste the
so
same
we know what to do next. So that's awesome. All right.
Yep, I'll do that.
Derek,
Okay,
thanks.
awesome.
Really appreciate the feedback like this because it helps us build a better product for everyone. So awesome. really thankful for that.
Yeah, I don't think we have any more questions. Again, it's just a quick one from Derek. So I think it would be also ideal to include many of these webinar videos. And
Derek
that's
is
what we're
reading our
planning to do, by
minds
the way.
and plans. Yeah. We just, before we had this webinar, Shantanu and I, we usually connect on this like 5-10 minutes before just to prep. And we said, hey, this is our 11th webinar already. It makes sense, to turn them into tutorials for people to, follow them in textual form. But also if they just want to look into these things, they could also do that because people learn different ways. Some of them prefer textual tutorials, some videos. So Derek, awesome suggestion. That is what we are planning to do, not just with this one, but with a bunch of others.
I think there's another follow-up question. I think then maybe we can wind it up for the day. But yeah, any plans for including command controls?
What do you mean by that? I'm not exactly sure what do we mean by this. Bash command controls.
Yeah, Derek, if you can just throw some light on what you exactly mean by them. I mean, we already have a setting in Zencoder where you can actually manage a bunch of your commands and which one to operate.
Yeah, like which ones are the saved that can be executed automatically. Those are in the settings. But since you're already on Discord, you can feel free to either reach out to Shantanu or myself and shed some more light into this. We would love to understand, what do you want to use with them.
Yep, I think we can take it up on this card, and I can even start an email thread since I already have the operation ID. But yeah, I think that's up for the day. Thank you so much, Vibhor. Thank you so much for doing this. I really loved it.
No problem.
And yeah, I think I'm super excited for what's coming up next week, and I'll keep it a surprise for now. And also, yes, we are actively working on converting these webinars to content, live how-to contents and tutorial. So once these are live, we'll keep you posted. Once again,
thank you everyone for joining, and thanks to those who will be rewatching this after we go offline. As I said, I always am happy to see people watching this. We have a bunch of customers who ask, hey, can you share those webinars with us? They're always published on our website, right? We have them on Zencoder AI and on our resources and webinars, but obviously they're also accessible through our LinkedIn and also on our YouTube channel. Right after this recording, they're automatically recorded there. So no need for you to wait. You can share them with others. And yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for having us here. Shantanu, again, awesome having you as a host. Thanks for having me with you guys.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. See you again next week. Bye-bye.
See ya. Take care. Bye-bye.